Mr. Stonegrave, I know that we are here this morning for another purpose, but I have to say that I am livid. Livid, I tell you. Do you know what they did, Hal's pals?
I can only imagine.
Look at me. I'm pasty. All I've got is a codpiece and a hat and some jewelry because they took my garb and left it in the nunnery. I hope you're laughing hearty this morning because you'll pay for it later. Anyway.
My lord, sorry. I'm trying not to laugh.
I wear black. Look at me. I'm all pasty.
I've never seen thee in white.
My father says I'm supposed to look evil later on, but how can I look evil in white?
Well, I think thou just look absolutely fantastic, in spite of the incident.
I understand. We're here for another purpose altogether, and I want to say good morning, Mistress Stonegrave. Shall we discuss rank and clothing this morn?
Well, I would be delighted, Lord Surrey, to talk about clothing, or the lack thereof.
Yes. Well, first, let us talk of theatre versus history, because I know thou dost love historical accuracy.
Yes, but I do know that theatre has to win sometimes. That is why not all of our clothing in Skaro is exactly correct.
Please, give us some examples.
Well, the most obvious is that we are not wearing wool from head to toe. We would simply burst into flames. Also, the lines between the classes would blur in actual history. As a nobleman's doublet wore out, he would pass on that beautiful garment to his servant, and when it becomes even more worn, the lace might be removed and used for a different garment, and the doublet passed down even farther. It would not be unreasonable to see a ploughman working the fields in a faded, worn, patched, completely out of fashion nobleman's doublet. Backlaced bodices might be seen across the classes, not just the upper class. The women were actually very skilled at lacing themselves with a long spiral lace that was just loosened or tightened instead of completely unlaced at the beginning of each day. And the ruffled skirts were not exactly period.
Oh my. That's quite enough of the historical accuracy for now. The point is that we have more specific guidelines because ultimately this is theatre, and sticking to specific rules will help the actors to identify each other much more easily. This also makes a beautiful picture for our guests. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. People always seem to add more clothing as we rise through the ranks.
Peasants are up first. Shall I speak of the ladies?
Oh, please.
Very well. Peasant women are referred to as goodwife, and then their last name, or goodwife and their profession if thou dost forget the name. Peasant women have a front-lacing bodice and one skirt, sometimes with a small amount of plain trim, sometimes completely unadorned. Both straw hats and flat caps are worn. Jewelry is made of wood, shells, or pretty rocks. Aprons are very common for peasant women.
So, one skirt equals goodwife.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, for the men, they are referred to as goodman plus last name or goodman plus their profession. Their most easily identifiable clothing is the open vest with no closures. Straw hats are seen as well as flat caps. Open vest equals goodman.
Very nice. Next up is the yeomanry. Yeoman women are referred to as mistress. Again, we say mistress plus last name or mistress plus profession. Yeoman women also have front-laced bodices. Aprons are sometimes worn depending on the profession, but not as often. We see more flat caps, less straw hats, again depending on the woman's profession. The big difference here is the second skirt. At least one of her two skirts should have ruffles.
Like I said, we add more clothes as we rise in the ranks. So 2 skirts, 1 with ruffles, mistress.
Perfect.
Yeoman men. We call yeoman men master, master last name, or master profession. Like the women, we see fewer straw hats and more flat caps. The difference between peasant men and yeoman men is their closures on their doublet. This is not a skirted doublet, just a plain doublet with closures such as buttons or laces.
Next up is the gentry. Gentry women, like their yeoman counterparts, are also called mistress. But unlike yeoman women, their clothing begins to change much more dramatically with this step up. Some wear a gabled hood, others still wear a flat cap. Chemises may begin to have some black work embroidery. The bodices are no longer front lacing, they are either back laced or side laced. The fabric is often more expensive and subsequently much heavier. The bodice fabric matches the overskirt fabric, and there is a split skirt. This split shows the underskirt below. Gentry ladies are often dressed very similarly to nobility. However, they do not have sleeves over their chemises.
For gentry men, they also keep their title of master. Their fabrics are also more lush, and the doublet gains a full skirt. This skirted doublet uses a lot of fabric for no other reason than showing wealth. Gentry men also do not have the oversleeves that the noblemen will have. There are some gentry in the village, and also some gentry that are traveling with the court. How can I tell the difference between the two?
For men, one cannot tell the difference between village gentry and court gentry. For women, the court gentry have added hoop skirt to match the nobles that they serve, but they still do not have sleeves. And honestly, it is not necessary to tell the difference. They are the same level and they have the same titles. It is only their influence on the nobility that may change.
And their jewelry may change as well. Some silver jewelry shows up as well as nicer stones. Basically, fancy but without sleeves equals gentry. Very simple.
Finally, we get to the nobility. More gabled hoods, more jewelry, some of it gold, more feathers, more black work, more of everything. Sleeves is the word of the day for nobility. Each of the nobles has their own specific title. If thou knowest it not, then thou art safe in calling any noble woman my lady.
It is the same for the men as well. If thou knowest the proper title, then absolutely use it. If thou dost not know the specific title, then my lord will work every time. Finally, we get to royalty. For 2022, we have one royal, Her Majesty Queen Margaret.
Only a royal may wear the colour purple. She is also the only woman that shows her hair.
Oh my.
This is theatre talking again.
Thou art speaking of the Biggins cap, correct?
Indeed. While portraits of the time have noble women showing a small amount of hair just above the forehead, even the highest of royals would cover up the vast majority of their hair.
Is the Biggins cap awful?
Not really. There are some benefits to wearing one. My hair does not get tangled or dry. It is not covered in ground concrete dust at the end of the day. And a bit of ice in the cap can be a godsend.
I can see that. Have we covered everyone?
Well, there are a few specific people with more specific titles, such as the clergy and sailors.
Sailors can still go by Goodman Sailor or Master Sailor, depending on their rank.
But a captain is always a captain.
Indeed. Clergy have a lot of titles. Father is usually safe. Your Eminence if they are high enough ranking.
Your Holiness if the Pope were to show up.
Women in the clergy are called sister or mother, depending on the person, and we have only one for 2022.
The Mother Abbess.
Indeed. Very nice. Shall we summarize?
I think that's an excellent idea. One skirt is a peasant. We call her goodwife. 2 skirts, one of them with ruffles. She is a yeoman, and we refer to her as mistress. A split skirt, but no sleeves. Gentry, also mistress. We add sleeves, we have a noble, and we can call her my lady.
Open vest, no closures, is a peasant or good man. Closed vest, no skirt, is a yeoman or master. Skirted doublet, no sleeves, gentry or master. Sleeves, noble, my lord.
Excellent, well.
Mr. Stonegrave, thank thee for joining me this day.
Well, I do hope we have helped.
Indeed.